was going to leave at like 2 something, which is like 7 a.m. in Chicago, but I got to the airport about 10 something, which was 3 a.m. in Chicago. So I'm pulling up to the airport and I'm super groggy, super sleepy. And but I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna thug it out and then just sleep on the plane. So I get to the airport super early. You know, like I said, it's 10 o'clock and my flight doesn't leave till 2:30. So I go into the lounge and I say, okay, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna just snore for a little bit and go to sleep because I do snore but I don't care. It's whatever. I was tired. And so I sat there and I shut my eyes and I went to sleep. And I woke up and I looked at my watch, and now the flight leaves at 2:30. It's about 1 o'clock, right? So that's an hour and a half until my flight leaves. You're following this? This making sense? And so I'm thinking I'm good. I'm like, okay, great. You know, the flight probably boards or they probably shut the door at 30 minutes before the flight. So I still have plenty of time. So I walk out the door, right? And I'm thinking like, okay, let me find the gate. It's C33. I still remember the gate. And so I'm looking for gate C33 and I walk out and I see this massive line with probably 1,000 people in this line. Longest one of the longest lines I've seen in a while, right? And I'm like, what line is that? I don't, a good thing that's not my line, but of course it was my line, right? And this line was the line for passport control, right? So apparently in Europe, and I should know this because I've been to different countries and stuff. When you're leaving the country, you got to go through passport control just to get on the airplane, and then you got to go through passport control again once you land, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I think I screwed myself, right? I feel like I just invited myself to a Diddy party, and now I'm gonna have to go file a lawsuit or something because I've been traumatized. So I get in this ridiculously depressingly long line that's super long, wasn't moving, and I'm sitting here thinking, holy crap, I'm gonna miss my flight. Like, what are they gonna do? And I'm standing in this line, I'm waiting. And then eventually I hear some white people talking. I'm the only black person anywhere in this airport. It's weird. Like I don't think I saw a single black person anywhere, which just makes me question my whole reality. Like, why are you there? But but they were nice people. They were nice white people, by the way. They weren't, all white people don't wake up thinking they're gonna kill a black person today. And so I hear these people talking, and they mention that they're on the flight to Chicago. So I start to feel a sense of relief, like, okay, so there are other Chicago people that are in this line. That we're all late, and then I'm like, well, how many of y'all from Chicago? A lot of people are like, oh, we're from Chicago. So I'm like, okay, so they can't leave all of us, right? And so we're in line, and we make this assumption that they can't leave us all, which was a good assumption. And we get through this line that took probably an hour, almost a full hour and a half to get through the line, right? So I finally get through passport control, and I've got maybe about 12 minutes till my flight time, where the flight's supposed to be in the air, right? So, I'm like, okay, I think they're not going to leave everybody behind me, but I'm going to walk fast just in case. So I walk fast to the gate. I realize I'm thirsty. And so because I'm thirsty, I'm like, let me grab some water really fast because I'm kind of dehydrated. I don't like to be, you got to stay hydrated. It's really important. So I stop and I grab some water really quick. And I get the water and then I go to my gate and I get there and there's some friendly European guy there and he's like, hi, how are you? And I'm like, oh, the flight's, it's not left yet. He said, no, we're shutting the door in 3 minutes but you're fine. And he's like, okay, I just need to see your passport because they got this thing. Everybody just wants to see your damn passport. So I reach in my bag. I'm like, sure, let me get it. I look at my bag. There's no passport. And I'm like, oh, it must be in my jacket pocket. Look, I'm checking my jacket. No passport. Okay. Now your heart starts racing a little bit. You start getting nervous. And then I'm like, maybe it's in my pocket. No passport. So then what you do is you start checking the same things over and over again. The bag, jacket, pants pocket, bag, jacket, pants pocket. I'm like, what happened? Just went through passport control, and then like I'm freaking out because I know I just had my passport just a couple minutes before. The problem too is that passport control was so far back. Like, it took me a really long time to get to the gate. Passport control was so far back that if I had to go all the way back there, I would have missed the flight. So one thing that passed me up, I said, I remembered stopping to get that bottle of water. And I said, I wonder if I left my passport when I went to get this bottle of water. Don't judge me because I'm feeling kind of dumb right now. Like, boys, why in the hell would you put your passport down on the counter, when you're getting water? You keep that stuff in your pocket, keep it in your hand. right? I've already thought about this. So I start going back and I'm like, okay, let me run back and let me go check this water station. And the guy's like, he's like, well, you can't leave, you leave your stuff. So I start running, and he says, you can't leave your stuff here, sir. So I had to run back and get my stuff. So I'm dragging my bag and running like high step and full speed to try to go check to see, just hoping that maybe I left my passport there. So the lady that was at the passport at the water stand, she had a, is it called, it's called a hijab, right? When you cover it like Muslim headdress, right? She had, tell me if I got that right. Hijab, I should know these things. Akilani Honda is my friend. I should know what a hijab is, right? So anyway, so she had the hijab. So here's what I saw, right? I saw something that gave me like a sigh of relief. I see a lady with a hijab holding a passport up. And I'm like, thank you. You got my passport. And so I walk up to this lady and I reach out to grab the passport, thinking that she realized, oh, he left his passport. Here you are, sir. I see you're coming back for your passport. It was the wrong lady. The lady looked at me like, who are you and why are you trying to take the passport out of my hand? So, but she looked just like the other lady. That's terrible, right? It's stereotyping here or something, right? That's pretty bad. So I'm like, oh crap, wrong lady, wrong hijab lady holding the passport. So I go further down and I run, like I'm running at this. I'm not walking fast. I'm running. I run to the station. Thank God my passport's sitting right there. The correct lady was sitting there with my passport sitting there. I guess she was thinking, well, he's going to eventually have to come back and get it. And I grab it. I think I quickly said thank you, and I was sprinting. Like I'm the only black man in this airport. I did not see another black person. I'm sprinting to my gate, running past all these people, and I barely got on my flight, and I was out of breath. Like that's how much I had to sprint. And I was like, thank God I go running every day. So that's my story, and I did get on the airplane. So thank you for asking. All right, so but y'all didn't ask for all of that. Like that was way too much of a story. But that was I was it was a little almost like a little traumatic in a way. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little angry at myself too. Like, man, what are you doing, boys? Lord, put your passport down. Shoot. Anyway, all right. So let's get started here. First off, I want you to mention that, or I wanted to mention to you that Chanel is in the chat, and I know Chanel has. First off, she is part of our team. She can help you if you have any questions or any issues with the Black Business School, your membership. I don't know if Amani's here or not, but Amani is the customer support person. Sometimes she comes in on Sundays. But Chanel is here strictly to mainly let you guys know if you guys want to do anything with the upcoming coin cohort, where coin stands for Certified Options Investing Network. So if you want to learn stock options from A to Z, we are doing another coin cohort starting in January. She's putting the link in the chat that you guys can grab and take a look at. And then also, we do have a mastermind. It's called the Winner Circle Mastermind. WIN stands for Wealth and Income Network. If you want to join the mastermind or apply for it, it's a little bit of a higher price point because it's a lot more specialized attention. But if that's your thing, then she can also show you how to apply for the mastermind. It's more intimate for those of you that want some more direct attention and want to talk to me directly about some of the things you're working on, stuff like that. All right, so let's talk about the world of finance and what's happening right now. And here's the thing: that airport story probably adds like zero value to your financial training. And so forgive me if I sounded overly indulgent by or just like a narcissistic asshole by sharing this story, but it was so traumatic. I had to tell somebody, and I thank you for listening. But here is the thing. So let's start here. Let's take a little field trip to Instagram, and I want to show you all something that some things that they're just kind of going on in the world, and I find these are good conversation points and good things to talk about. So let me first share this. Okay, so here, this is, if you ever wanted to know what I looked like 25 years ago when I got my PhD, that's me. And that was a big day. That's my dissertation chairman, Andrew Caroli, one of my favorite white people because he really was supportive in me getting my doctorate. He went to the University of Chicago. He's now on the faculty at Cornell. I think he's a dean or something like that, and just one of the nicest people ever. And so what I thought at that time was that finishing the doctorate was the end of a journey, and it was the end of a journey, but it was really the beginning of the biggest journey. And it's crazy because you have to know a lot of stuff to get a PhD in finance. I was the only African American on the planet, male or female, to do this. Nobody else. I didn't know another black person who actually got through the program. It was that hard. But literally, the amount of things I've learned since that time dwarf the things I learned then. Back then, I learned everything that was in the textbook. I learned everything that was in the research papers. I learned all the stuff that involved the academic side. But then there's like a whole nother university you attend called life. And in this University of Life, there's just all these interesting things that you pick up on in terms of how economics is shaped in our lives, how culture plays a big part in economics. I saw someone that did a video. I shared this video on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance, if you want to go check it out. And it was a guy who talked about just how when they changed media, how that impacted black people. This is a white guy talking, and he said that when Bill Cosby's Cosby Show was on TV, he said black people were wanting to attend college. They wanted to graduate from high school. They wanted to go to HBCUs. And he gave specific statistics on the increase in the numbers of black people attending college, doing well in school, etc. And then he had something he called that the Huxtable effect, right? And that really impacted black economics. You had families say or kids saying, "Hey, I want to be a lawyer like Claire Huxtable, or I want to be a doctor like Heathcliff Huxtable," which is a really interesting name, by the way. And then he said he fast forwarded 17 years to the future, and he called this the Little Wayne effect. He went to 2010. He said when young black males were mostly influenced by guys like Little Wayne, he said high school graduation rates dropped significantly. College attendance among black males dropped significantly. Economic outcomes for black people dropped significantly. So literally the way entertainment works does do a rope a dope on the black community. Like we are heavily influenced and inspired by what we see on TV. There are lots of 65-year-old white males who went into engineering because they saw the first moon landing in 1968. They saw this happen and they said, "I want to work for NASA because this is the most important thing that a person can do." So the same way that little white kids were influenced to want to go work for NASA because they thought that was the thing to do. You see, unfortunately, a lot of black boys that say, "I want to be a hip hop star because that's the biggest thing that a black man could do." Of course, there are exceptions in every space, but in media plays a big part in what you value. It also plays a big part in what you what you believe you're capable of doing. It plays a big part in what you put your energy into. And so the thing about investing that's really important to understand is that things that grow the most in your life are things that you invest in. And you don't just invest with money, you invest with your attention, you invest with your energy. So if I'm investing all my time into being the best basketball player, that takes time away, maybe that I could invest in being the greatest mathematician, right? So ultimately it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I want you to always ask yourself, in terms of what do I want to have grow in my life? And then that should shape. You should go backward and say, well, that's going to determine what I'm going to invest in. Like so, for example, the United States wants to grow in its energy independence and its independence from China and rare earth minerals. So if you look at where they're investing heavily in forming independence in rare earth minerals because their goal, their priority is to compete with China. So if you say, I want my wealth to grow, then you should be investing in building your wealth. You invest your money, but more importantly, you invest your time. And even more importantly, you invest your attention into things that are related to the building of wealth. Because typically, if you're not studying wealth and learning about wealth and talking about wealth and putting your resources into wealth, then you will have no wealth, right? So anytime someone says, I don't understand why I'm broke, then you should just say, well, how much time and how much energy and how much attention and how much of your money are you putting into being not broke? And chances are they're going to say very little, and that's going to help kind of connect the dots for them. Okay, all right. So let me also move to the next. I would say the next slide, but it's not a slide. It's just my Instagram. Okay, this is just. Sometimes I just put stuff up like this because it's just interesting. A wealthy mindset makes poor beginnings irrelevant. The reason where this quote comes from is it's basically saying something that a lot of us don't really understand. Is that if you gave me a choice between being a person born in the projects who has a wealth builder mindset, meaning I invest heavily. I invest my time, I invest my energy, I invest my attention into learning about wealth and building wealth. And then when I get a couple of dollars, I invest those dollars into wealth. Versus, let's say I had another option, which was to be born rich but have a poverty mentality. Maybe I'm born in a nice suburb, but I want to run the streets and be a thug and go to prison and waste my money. I'd rather be the poor person with the wealthy mindset than the rich person with the poverty mindset, because the mindset determines your actions, and your actions will shape where you ultimately end up. And so basically, mindset is everything. Financial side, if I could change one thing about our community in terms of, how we can have the outcomes we want, it would be the mindset. Even when you say I'm poor, there's only so much I can do. I can only go as far as white people will allow me to go. That kind of like woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. That right there reduces your probability of success quite a lot, because as my wife, who's an expert on the subconscious mind, likes to express and help me understand, is that the things you repeat to yourself become the things that are true. That's what ultimately becomes true. So be careful about what you repeat to yourself, because that's going to be your reality eventually. Moving on. Okay, that's something I'm not gonna. This is just interesting. I'd be curious to see if Deion Sanders is a candidate for the Michigan job. Since because it's kind of weird. Michigan and Michigan State, they hired these two brothers that have literally lost over 100 million in generational wealth, which could have become $1 billion, because they can't control their penises, and I just think that that's kind of wild. Dion seems like a guy that doesn't have that issue. And someone asked me, do I think that he'd be hired at the Michigan job? And then the debate that I saw people have is whether or not Dion's proven himself enough as a coach to get the Michigan job. I think that that's secondary. Actually, I don't think that and I do. If you want to know what I think as a football fan, I will confess I don't know if he's really proven he's a great coach, because the team has not been very good this year, right? But one thing Dion has proven is that he's a moneymaker. Dion understands branding. He understands how to get millions of people to want to buy a Michigan jersey because he's wearing one, right? So when you talk about sports, there's usually the sports conversation, and then there's the economic conversation. The economic conversation says, even if I have a mediocre team, I can still make extraordinary money. That's what's happened with the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys don't win Super Bowls because they don't want to invest in winning Super Bowls. But the Dallas Cowboys makes more money than pretty much every other football team out there. They're the most valuable franchise, not because of the number of championships they win. They're the most valuable franchise because of the revenue that they make. When venture capitalists are pulling together money to try to buy an NFL team, they're not going to do the calculation based on how many games you win, or how good your quarterback is. They're going to do the calculation based on revenue streams. How many jerseys are you selling? How many tickets are you selling? How much how much are networks willing to pay for the broadcast rights for your games? They ain't sitting around caring about how often you win on the field. That's for the fans. That's for the fans who get caught up in all that stuff. That's not for the business people that actually own the teams. So, so the reason I wouldn't be surprised if Dion was a consideration for the Michigan job is because I think he's good enough to pass the mustard as a coach. I think he'd be good enough. I think he'd be as good of a person to try out as anybody else. But the thing that Dion would bring to the table that no other coach in the country can bring is monetization. Monetization is more important than than winning and getting attention and everything else. It makes me think about social media influencers I know who have, 100,000 followers. I've been approached by several people like that, where they'll have 100,000, 200,000 followers, and they will say, well, I'm not making any money. And I would say, like, what makes you think that having 100,000 followers is going to make you money? Like, where did you think the money was going to come from? Well, I don't know. I just thought that if I was popping on social media, that somehow I'd make money. I said, that's not how money works. Money does not just fall out of the sky. It does not just come to you just because you're good at something, or just because you worked hard, or just because Jesus is trying to bless you. Money comes from a business model. You have to have a business model, and one of the biggest weaknesses of Black folks when it comes to our entertainment is that we're really good at entertainment. We can entertain our asses off, but the problem is that we don't spend time talking to our children about the business model that connects to the entertainment. Um, One example, actually, this might be on my next slide, is this mediocre white guy named Jake Paul, who just got into I guess he wants to be a boxer, but he just but he's just not that great. But then again, who can? I mean, he's fighting a brother, Anthony Joshua, I think is his name, and I put the meme up that because that's just how That's how I talk, right? So you see, he's like scared to death, right? Look at his face, and the guy's about to, because he's about to get like knocked out big time, Chris Rock style. Or Chris, remember Chris Tucker said, "You got knocked the F out," right? Like, so he's about to get knocked out. That's why he's. But then again, who wouldn't be afraid? Because look at this guy. He's big and he's strong, and he's about to like punch you right in the face. That I'd probably have the same facial expression. But anyway, so but Jake Paul is this guy who's, I would say if all he did was box, he wouldn't be memorable at all. There's nothing memorable about his boxing skill or his athletic ability at all, not one iota. But what Jake Paul is able to do is he's able to monetize attention. And he's got probably 100 million followers on social media. And he decided to take that following, that attention, and monetize it through the sport of boxing, which apparently he and his brother, he has a brother, Logan, that also has maybe 80, 90, 100 million followers. And they go and they monetize that attention. And someone says, I'm not sharing my screen. Were you guys able to see that? Were y'all able to see that? Let me know if you were able to see that. If you couldn't, let me share it again. Let me show you again. I'm sorry. Here's the image again. If you couldn't see it, let me know if you can see that. Give me a quick yes. Sharon says that she couldn't see it. So okay, so if you couldn't see it before, and if it was up there before, then maybe you got to check your settings, Sharon. But anyway, so yeah, so long story short, um, attention without a business model is just attention. I had a conversation with a social media influencer she'll do videos once a week and get 100,000 views on the video, but she can't pay her rent. And she doesn't understand why. And I said, well, that's because you put more energy into getting likes and shares and clicks than you put into actually figuring out what the business model is going to be. That's why Hollywood, we think that the words rich and famous are supposed to go together. No, they don't go together. That's like thinking peanut butter must always come with jelly. Like it's just naturally going to happen. Like the peanut butter is going to bring the jelly. The peanut butter don't bring the jelly. You got to bring the jelly. Do you understand? If you want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you can't put peanut butter on the sandwich and then say, "Okay, Jesus, put the jelly on it." No, Jesus ain't going to deliver the jelly. You got to bring the jelly. So the point is to say that rich and famous, like peanut butter and jelly, they go together if there's an explicit goal of bringing the two together, and doing that requires a different kind of thinking. That's why Whitney Houston needed Clive Davis for you to even know who Whitney Houston is. If it wasn't for the Clive Davises of the world, who I personally think are, I think that there's some evil in there. I think that there's like all these mob affiliations and some of the crazy ritualistic nonsense that goes on in Hollywood. I think it takes black people away from who we are. You ever see these niggas go to Hollywood and they just come back weird, like doing stuff that black folks can't relate to? Like that's, I'm sorry, that's just my perception, right? And I'm not saying Whitney, I'm not here to criticize Whitney on that level, but I personally think that you've seen a lot of celebrities who lost everything, whether it's from drugs or just getting into stuff. And I believe that their families weren't the ones who guided them in that direction. It was the temptation of being famous and thinking that I should go to this weird party because I want it more than anything, and because I don't feel like I have any other options. I can't call my dad and make a business deal with my dad. I can't go back to my community and get opportunities there. I got to go in this space of weirdos and try to fit in, and then I become rich and famous on the outside, but really I'm broken and destroyed on the inside. Like I wake up every day hating my life, hating myself, incredibly unhealthy, mentally, physically, and otherwise, spiritually broken. But somehow because I'm on this big screen and I'm famous, people think it's okay. It's not okay, right? But with that being said, though, if you look at it just from a pure business standpoint, Whitney singing is not the thing that made all that money. It was the singing plus the distribution. It was the singing plus the monetization. It was the singing plus the business model. Beyonce is, as a brand, she is a corporate product. Taylor Swift is a corporate product that's marketed the same way you market cans of Coca-Cola or whatever. So if you really want your children to win in America, you should spend a lot of time helping them learn about business models. You don't have to teach them yourself. I mean, we have a whole Black business school for children. Like it's Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. That's the website, blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. This is what we do. And I really think that if Black people really spent time talking about this and just making this kind of common knowledge, I think that we'd be able to leverage our talent a lot better than we do right now. I think right now we lose a lot because we're thinking so much about being on the stage and we're not thinking about who owns the stage, who controls the stage, which bank finances the stage. That's where the power is. The power is in the money. The power is not so much in the talent, because talented people can be kind of replaced pretty quickly. Now, I want to play a video for you. Um, and let me know if you can hear this. This is just a little tidbit, little fact, financial factoid related to people that got raggedy ass cousins and need to keep getting bailed out of jail. And so I'm gonna just play it, and you'll know what I'm talking about in a minute. Give me a yes if you can hear this. I'm gonna share my audio. Let me know if you can hear this. Okay, here it goes.
There are 5 things you didn't know about how criminal justice expenses destroy relationships. First, the average bail amount is $10,000, but families secretly spend an additional $13,000 on legal fees and court costs. Picture Sarah at the ATM, nervously withdrawing $15,000 from their joint savings while texting her boyfriend she's buying groceries. Second, 78% of people who bail out family members hide these expenses from their romantic partners. They drain emergency funds and retirement savings without consent, lying about mysterious bank withdrawals. Third, bail money rarely gets returned because 84% of defendants either flee or violate conditions. The money disappears forever, along with relationship trust. Fourth, partners feel betrayed when they discover secret bail payments because their significant other prioritized criminals over their shared future. Fifth, relationships where one partner secretly posts bail have 91% failure rates. Bail becomes a recurring expense as the same people get arrested repeatedly. The enabling partner becomes addicted to rescuing others while destroying their own love life. Love dies when secrets drain bank accounts. Here are 5 things you didn't know about how.
Okay, I assume you caught that. And so I don't know. Does anybody have any relatives that have been in jail? How many of y'all have? Douglas said it hits home. Yeah, it hits home for a lot of us. And it's a really hard situation because I personally know in my own experience it led to survivor's guilt. Where you feel you're sort of tricked into believing that everything that you have occurred because you were blessed or you were lucky or you were fortunate, and you think about that cousin who made different choices or ended up in a different situation, and you think it's just because you had access to things they didn't have or whatever. And I get that, but I think it's really really difficult because I ultimately have learned over time that it's really hard to change people. It's really hard to save people. It's just like pouring money down into a toilet. I don't know if anybody's ever gone through that where you've just really done everything you could to try to save somebody. And I'm not saying you should give up. I'm not saying you shouldn't help people. Um, but I believe me, that was beaten out of me in my 20s, in my 30s. I think by about 37 or 38, I gave up on this idea of trying to save anybody. I had some people in my life that I really cared about, and it was really hard, and so one of the things that you should know about this sort of thing is the criminal justice system is one of the many financial drains that exists in America that tends to eat into the ability of poor and working class people to build wealth. You see people that where the only wealth they have is their home equity, so they'll go and take the equity out of their house in order to get somebody out of jail, and it's just such a losing battle, and it's so difficult and it's so unfair because when guys go to jail and women go to jail, they charge you like crazy for phone calls and everything else. It's a draconian system. And I haven't even gotten to the fact that I think prison rape should be one of the biggest social issues in America. I don't know why. I get it if police shootings became kind of a big deal. I don't understand why people going away and being repeatedly raped over and over and over again, and then catching STDs and bringing them back to their community. I don't know why that's not on someone's radar. But I'm going to keep talking about it until somebody else does. And so here are a few economic consequences that can occur when you are when you're constantly bailing somebody out of jail or bailing them out. Maybe not bailing them out of jail. Maybe you're just bailing them out of life, out of their own choices. One is people that rely on family bailouts tend to save less for emergencies or retirement because they expect that if trouble hits, It reduces long-term financial security. Studies show households that prefer to borrow from family perceive less need for emergency savings. So basically, it's sort of a double-edged sword. If you're constantly the superhero, you're going to be drained because every time you get a little something, and especially if you talk about it and you tell people how well you're doing, then the vultures, the leeches, the needy will instantaneously lock onto you, right? That's why you want to be really quiet about what you have. But then on the other side of that, there are research studies written on this that if people know they're going to get bailed out, then that changes their behavior. They take on riskier behavior because they know that there's no consequences, right? Let me know if you get what I'm saying. That they call that the term I heard used on that was heads I win, tails you lose, right? Which means that if things go bad for me, the consequences will not follow me. And this is really bad amongst young people who have those overbearing parents, like that mama that wants to save you from yourself. He ain't got no reason to be careful or cautious or thoughtful or responsible because you're saving him every time. The consequences fall on you. They don't fall on him. And so why in the hell would he even consider not crashing the car for the third time or not blowing all his rent money or whatever, right? Because he knows you're going to come back and save him. And this doesn't just happen on a interpersonal level. This happens at a bigger corporate, like governmental level. The Wall Street bankers. Anybody remember when the economy almost crashed and the Wall Street bankers like almost destroyed the entire economy, and some of them should have went to jail, but nobody did. And then President Obama came in. First thing that Obama did with Congress was they bailed out the bankers. They bailed it. They came up with 700 billion. They could have used the 700 billion to help people catch up on their mortgages. They could have put the 700 billion to end the homeless crisis. No, they took the 700 billion and gave it to the freaking bankers who destroyed the economy in the first place. So if you don't understand yet why I'm very skeptical of both the Democrat and Republican parties, it's because I know how this thing works. I know where the bodies are buried. I know how to follow the money. They all work for the same billionaires. There's no reason why all that money should have gone to saving the bankers and none of it going to the American people. But who do you think is getting your congressman elected? Who do you think is writing those big old checks at those $100,000 plate dinners? It's not regular people. So ultimately, so here's the thing, and there's academic research on this. Basically, they find that when investors and bankers and wealthy people know they're going to get bailed out if something goes wrong, it increases their incentive to take risk. It's like, well, let's take a risk because if we win, if we're successful, then we get to be hardcore capitalists. We get to say, well, I'm wealthy because of my hard work and ingenuity. But if things go bad, then they suddenly become socialists. Well, we need the government to bail us out so that it doesn't destroy the industry and blah 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 blah. Right. So ultimately, that it creates very warped incentives. And I want to explain this to you. I need you to understand this, and I want you to understand it and hear me when I'm telling you, I'm doing my best to be as objective as I can be about this because I know sometimes we get into Democrat Republican conversations and I just don't want any parts of that. I'm just telling you how the game works and I want you to understand where to position yourself. Part of the reason that I want you to be an investor is because when they're doing all these bailouts, one of the greatest beneficiaries of all these government bailouts and the fact that the government feels they have to take care of rich people first, the group that benefits the most are people that are invested in the stock market. They will not typically allow the stock market to crash. They if the stock market now again, you could have an extra million homeless people on the street. They're not gonna see that as a crisis. You can have fentanyl addicts falling out, on street corners everywhere. That's not a national crisis. Kids not getting educated in school, that's not a national crisis. But let the stock market drop 30% and watch how quickly the Federal Reserve jumps into action and starts lowering interest rates and increasing the money supply and engaging in all forms of economic stimulus to get that sucker going again. That they do, this is what they do. They call it, they have a term for it. They call it the Fed put. Now, if you know anything about put options, if you remember put options are what? Put options are things that you buy to protect your investments. It's like insurance. It's something that gives you a what's the word, a safety net. It's a safety net, right? So the Fed put is a safety net where investors take extra risk. And when I say investors, I'm talking about anybody that's in the stock market. They take extra risk. They speculate more because they know that the Fed is only going to allow stock prices to drop so far. In fact, let me give you a real life example where I just this week made about an extra $5,000 based on a similar concept. I'm going to call this the Trump put. So here's how I made money on the Trump put. Donald Trump has this company called Trump Media, which is an absolutely horrible company that I would never invest in under any normal circumstances. I don't know what the hell they make. They probably make less revenue than, than like local mom and pop pizza shops. Like they're terrible at what they do. And the stock price is reflecting that. The stock price was dropping, dropping, dropping. And I said to myself, I said, okay, I don't know Trump personally, but I look at this guy. He's definitely he could be a narcissist. He's definitely powerful. He's the president of the United States. I said he's only going to let this stock drop so far. He's going to step in and he's going to do something to stimulate the value of this company at some point. I didn't know this for sure, but this is what I was investing in. I was investing in his selfishness. I don't trust people. I trust people to be who they are. Do you understand? I don't trust people to always do the right thing, but I trust people to do their thing, right? I trust, like, you show me who you are. I'm not really going to try to judge who I think you need to be. I'm going to look at who you are, and I trust you to be exactly who you are. I hope that makes sense. Like, you trust a drug addict to be a drug addict. So if you want a drug addict to do something good for you, you don't rely on the goodness of a drug addict or the honesty of a drug addict. You rely on the fact that if you have the crack, he's going to show up at your house at 9 o'clock. If you say, hey, I got some crack for you, if you come cut the grass, he's going to cut the grass. He's going to do a really good job. But if you think he's going to cut the grass because he loves you, then you got another thing coming because he don't love you more than he loves the crack because crack is wonderful, right? That's what I hear anyway. I've never tried it, but I hear it feels pretty good for a while. So anyway, my point is to say that with Trump, I was like, yeah, I think he's going to probably do something to boost the value of this company at some point. So I bought some shares of that stock for that reason. And lo and behold, it happened sooner than I thought it would. I think about it maybe a month later, they announced a merger where somehow they're merging with a company that does nuclear fusion, which is weird to me. I was like, why are you merging with a nuclear fusion company? I didn't care. The stock price went up 40%, so I sold. I didn't sell it all. I sold like probably like half of my stake. I was like, oh, look at that. All right, we did it. We were smart today. But just so you know, sometimes you're wrong. But in that case, I was right because I leaned on the Trump put. So ultimately, generally speaking, when you are bailing somebody out and saving them from themselves and allowing them to avoid natural consequences, economic theorists would say that you're incentivizing the wrong behavior. So if you keep bailing your son out of jail and he won't change his behavior, then don't look at him. Don't just look at him. It's you. You're enabling that, right? It's a partnership, right? So anyway, with that being said, speaking of behavioral changes, my wife, Dr. Alicia, wants to come into stock market class this week. And as you know, she's the head of our Black Financial Therapy Department. We're the first ever institution to have a Black Financial Therapy Department. And they're doing some really great research on the linkage between things like trauma and investing habits of Black people and spending habits. And she's working with the brother Keith. Keith, I think Keith Daniels is his last name. Keith, if you're here, man, say your name in the chat because I feel bad if I got your name wrong. But he's at the University of Kentucky on the faculty there, and he's a great guy. And I really like him. Keith Watts, thank you, Keith Watts, thank you, Chanel. She got it. She fixed it for me. Yeah, Keith Watts. And so there. Anyway, one of the things that she wants to do Tuesday is she wants to do an analysis of the psychology of money in terms of really understanding your money mindset and making sure that you are balanced psychologically as you make your investing decisions. And she even mentioned the hermetic principles of money and things like that. And so I decided to let her have the floor this Tuesday for stock market class. So if you'd like to join our stock market club, you can go to drboycestockmarket.com. You can do a free trial. So if you want to do the free trial just to come in and hang out with Dr. Alicia on Tuesday at noon, you can do that. And also for those who want to talk about investing, we'll probably do an extra class this week so we can talk about what's going on in the market as well. But investing psychology is a really important part of not just your decision making, but the outcomes and how you process what's happening. So when prices go down, um, there's a way you should handle that so that you don't end up just pumped up with cortisol and end up overreacting. Black people lose a lot of wealth because we overreact when the market gets volatile. The stock market will test you. It's going to be shaky. It's going to go up and down. But if you're a consistent long-term investor, that's where people make money. Well, let me give a shout out to um let me see to our B1 story of the day. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find the next person here. Sherelle Johnson. Sherelle says in 2018, I had knee surgery. I was at home scrolling and came across Dr. Boyce Watkins and it changed my life. I had stocks in a 401k, but didn't know anything about it. So I signed up for the Black Business School. I consistently followed the $5 a day plan. That $5 a day turned into me saying that if I did $10 a day or 300 a month, what could happen? Well, I got out of debt. All right, awesome. I love hearing this. I love hearing action. I love hearing changes. So Sherelle is telling us that she got out of debt. We bought a new house. And when my renter destroyed my house, I had the funds to do the repairs and sell the house. Good. I've set up a custodial account for my daughter so she can have options. And she puts options in air quotes. Like, remember, I told you the best thing you can give your child is options. Options when she becomes an adult. Mostly, it has given me a sense of pride and confidence. Good. A community of people who look like me that are serious about wealth building. So, thank you, Dr. Boyce, for everything. Well, thank you for sharing your story, Sherelle. This is a wonderful story because that's what I like. I appreciate when you say, "Hey, Dr. Boyce, I think you're great. I like you," and that's nice. I mean, who doesn't? Who wouldn't enjoy that? But I really want to hear the transformation. I want to hear what's different in your life because you started investing. What have you changed? What are you doing? What are you working on? Share ideas, share outcomes. Let's celebrate together because you deserve to be applauded. We'll celebrate all day when some Negro gets a rap deal, even though he might get killed in the next 6 months. We'll celebrate all day because somebody got to the NBA. We'll celebrate all day because white people put somebody on TV. But I want to celebrate family. I want to celebrate stability. I want to celebrate education. I want to celebrate power. I want to celebrate unity. I want to celebrate hope, having a future, just knowing that because I'm doing these things now, my grandkids are going to have a better life. Like that to me, like I sit up, like I was sitting there with my grandkids this weekend. I was like, okay, let me figure out how much money's in the trust. Let me add more. And I'm looking at the 4-year old Vigo. He's the cutest little kid ever. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, okay, I got to make sure I have this much money going in so that by the time he's 25, we'll be sitting on enough money where you'll never have to work for anybody. I don't want my kids or grandkids to have to work. If they want to do it, then that's up to them. But the thing is, and that's an option that's available for everybody. Don't think it's just available for me. Oh, well, because you're Dr. Boyce and you have money. Yeah, but no, no, no. If you get enough time, time is the magic ingredient. You can't waste time. So, in fact, actually, I put something on my Instagram as well. I want to show you. And this is a little bit of a misleading chart that I put up, but I'm going to show you the chart, and I want to share it with you. And this is not something that's just uniquely from me. This is something you can find in a lot of places. I'm sure like a Dave Ramsey or a Robert Kiyosaki could share something like this with you. But I'm gonna go deeper than them because I have a PhD and they don't. So let's look at this chart and let's talk about this. So this is something I put on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance, and it says the $100 versus $500 investing illusion. So person A on this side, he starts investing $100 a month at the age of 25, and by 65 he has 1.2 million based on the history of the stock market, something like that. This other person starts at 45 and she does 5 times more money, but she has less than half of what he has when she turns 65, right? That's pretty massive, right? So what this shows is that even if you accelerate the amount you invest by quite a lot, it's very, very difficult to catch up if you start too late. So wasting money is bad, but wasting time is the ultimate sin. That is the worst kind of financial sin you can commit. It's not wasting money, it is wasting time. So that $7 cup of Starbucks coffee isn't what's going to get you in trouble. It's the fact that you spent 20 or 30 years and you chose not to let your money grow, right? This is what this proves, and this is powerful. This is something I've seen before. There's nothing original here, but it is important for everybody to understand this. But here's where my PhD comes into play because you're talking to a person who's obsessed with the mathematics of time and the mathematics of money and the interaction between time and money. I don't really care about starting when you start investing when you're 25. I think that's great. That's better than starting at 45. But I want you to start investing at age 0 or age -5. Because all it takes is vision. All you have to have in your family are visionaries that love you. If somebody has a vision, then we can sit here and we can meditate and we can say, okay, I want you to meditate on the fact that we're in 2025, but it's not going to be 2025 forever. Pretty soon it'll be 2026, 27, 28, 2030, 40, 50, 60. And I want you to imagine your unborn child. Let's say you want to have a kid in 5 years. So imagine that kid in 5 years, and then imagine him at the age of 30. That means you got 35 years to implement your plan. You got 35 years to prepare. If you get that much time to prepare for anything, you can do anything you want to do, right? So by visualizing that and by being the visionary of your family, the visionary who loves people that you're going to affect, you need to understand the power of being the parent, the power of being the grandparent. And when you embrace that power and you say, my God, little things I do right now can have a dramatic and high impact effect on people who are not yet born, on this little 2-year old, right? If you did something terrible, if you were a serial killer, then the 2-year old can't stop you, right? Like, if you did something amazing for the 2-year old, then that can't be stopped either. That's going to have a massive impact. So ultimately, I think starting investing at 25 is good, but that's not the best you can do. Starting investing for a child when they're 5 is good. That's still not the best you can do. You can always go to another level. I tell our 15-year-old, I say, I started investing for you when you were negative 20 years old. I started preparing for you before you existed because I have an imagination. And I imagine that when I was 50, if you talked to me when I was 20 and said, imagine your life at the age of 54, what are you going to be doing? I'd be like, I don't know. I'd probably be driving one of my kids to school or something. So I didn't know what you'd look like. I didn't know what person you'd be, but I figured you'd probably exist and that I could do things at the age of 20 to make sure that when you come into the world, when you get in the game, that I've laid the table out for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Like just like in football, when the quarterback is or the running back is trying to run to the end zone, somebody needs to block for them. The Chicago Bears have been a terrible football team for many years, and they got better not because the players got better. They got better because really because of one or two reasons. They brought in one guy who knew how to block. Right? They got this guy who's this lineman. He played for the Patriots, won Super Bowls with the Patriots. Then he goes and plays for the Chiefs. He won Super Bowls with the Chiefs. And they said, let's get this guy in here because he knows how to protect the quarterback so that they can get the ball down the field. They got somebody that knew how to block. So what I'm saying to you when I talk about investing is I need you to really understand the importance of you blocking for your children. Our children get sacked every time they touch the ball because nobody blocks for them. Nobody prepared them. That 25-year-old ain't got a nickel in his damn pocket, and it's your fault if you raised that baby and did not for 1 second think about that child's future, anything other than get an education and go to school so you can get a good job. What, you think white people are going to come save your child? No, white people are not going to do the job, nor is it their job. They don't care about doing that job. They don't care about you. The sooner we accept this, the sooner we can realize that it's our job to block for our kids. Does that make sense? Did I sound mean? I probably sounded mean. I didn't mean to sound too mean. I'm not yelling at you. Don't feel bad. I want you to feel a little bad, but I don't want you to feel so bad that you can't feel a little progress from the kid. Does that help at all? I hope it helps a little bit. Okay, I didn't, I get this fires me up. It fires me up because I think nothing bothers me more than a preventable problem. Nothing bothers me more than when I see something go wrong and I'm like, yeah, a little bit of if you'd just done this a little different, it would have went better. And then you have people that don't understand how this stuff works. They don't understand how the wealth money thing works. And they'll say, oh, well, you couldn't have avoided it. And I'm the guy who says, no, 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 no. We could have avoided this. Let's really analyze this thing and really sort of stop just saying, well, it happened because I'm black. Yeah, certain things do happen because you're black, but that didn't happen because you're black. You're right. That wealth that went out your pocket every Christmas and the money you never invested for the baby, that didn't happen because you're black, because white people don't tell us that we can't invest. Right. So ultimately what I would say to you is the more expansive your thinking is, the more visionary your thinking is, the more you commit to trying to have that vision and just imagining the future, the better off you'll be. So I want to say thank you to Sherelle again for sharing her story because I want to point out specific things about her story that really impressed me. So she says that she had stocks in her 401k. She didn't know anything about them. She could have remained in the dark. She could have said, I scrolled across this guy talking about money, but I wanted to go and watch a Cardi B video instead, so I just stayed in the dark, right? So that could have been the end of her story, but she decided, okay, I don't want to stay in the dark. So she went ahead and made a move. So she signed up at the Black Business School. In case you don't know, you can go to the blackbusinessschool.com and we have free stuff. Our free stuff is better than what you pay for at most universities. We have students that learn more from us for free than they learn after spending $100,000 going to college. And this is something I'm very proud of because we're good at what we do. But then she says, I consistently follow the $5 a day plan. That $5 a day turned into me saying that if I did 10 or $10 a day, what could happen, right? So she elevated, she challenged herself. She could have just stayed here in the low self-esteem range of saying, well, I'm going to pay this much in my light bill, my utility bills this much, my car notes this much, but my investment for myself is that much, right? So I'm valuing the car dealer more than I value myself. I'm valuing the landlord more than I value myself, right? Because when it comes to paying bills, I'm a big baller, but when it comes to investing in myself and paying the ultimate bill, which is the bill for my financial security, I become very scared. I become like a little meek little mouse. And a lot of that is self-esteem. It's identity. Like I don't identify myself as an investor. I'm not a wealth builder. I'm just a survivor, right? That's my job. It's just to sort of trudge along in the economy and hope that nothing goes wrong. When I personally believe that there's more out there for you, but you have to believe that that is for you, right? So she became a more aggressive investor. And so 300 a month is a nice number because I know a lot of people that have car notes that are more than 300 a month. And I don't think your financial security should be worth less than your car note, but it's up to you to make that decision. And then she says, well, then here's what happened. So actions have consequences, and the consequences were one, she got out of debt. They bought a new house. That's massive. You'd be amazed how much black wealth gets killed because we have student loan debt. People get it so deep in debt that you're out of the game before the game even begins. You're trapped in the corporate plantation because your loans are this high, but your salary is that high. So the financial physics don't even work. That's why half of all black college graduates default on their student loans, and a large percentage of black college graduates owe more money 20 years later than they owed when they first got out of school. So you have to rethink that relationship in terms of how that's going to work for you, because the way we were doing things isn't really working that well. So she got out of debt. That's big. Bought a new house. That's important because the number one way that people go from poor to middle class is home ownership. Home ownership is a really important part of wealth. Also, you're jumping the fence. You're becoming a wealth builder, which means that inflation is now your friend because, yeah, the price of carrots went up by 10%, but so did your home value. So you're making this much over here. You're losing a little bit over here. You got to pay more for your carrots and your bananas at the grocery store, but your home value went up by $80,000 last year, so you can survive that, right? Moving on. She bought a new house, and then she said when her renter destroyed the house, which again, that's another reason why I told you my wife and I just weren't interested in being landlords anymore. We sell stock options. That's how we make income now. But this catastrophe came along where somebody destroyed the house. She had the money to make those repairs, and that's important because these little bad situations that pop off, they call them, a term that might be used for them are what they call economic shocks or black swan events. Just these events that you didn't think were going to happen, but they always happen. You always know that the only certainty in the world is uncertainty. And the reason that financial security is so important is because it defends you and protects you from economic uncertainty. So people who are not protected. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have no savings, you have no alternate streams of income, you don't have a spouse, you don't have any other way to bring income in, you're very, very vulnerable because the minute an economic shock hits, you lose your job, something breaks down, house burns down, whatever it is, right? A lot of times we're not prepared for that. And again, if you're in that category, I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel so bad that you don't do anything about it. I just want you to understand how this thing sort of works. So long story, and then she talks about her daughter and what she's doing for her daughter. And what I love about Sherelle's story as well is that she and Sherelle, if you're here, say something. Her name is spelled Shirelle. So if y'all could like congratulate her and like say "You go, girl" or "Way to go, Sherelle" or something, that like let's cheer for her. She talked about her daughter, and what I'm also seeing is whatever Sherelle is doing, the journey that Sherelle is on is really nothing compared to the journey her daughter's going to be on. What I have found is that when parents do little things in one generation, their children like 10x that in the next generation, right? So I'm not just excited about what Sherelle has done in her life. She's done quite a lot with very little time. But if you take that time, you multiply it by 10. So instead of a 3 year journey, you're talking about a 30-year journey. You're talking about massive amounts of progress that their family's going to make. Like it wouldn't surprise me in 30 or 40 years that that family was a multi million dollar family because all it takes is consistent investing, buying and holding your assets. And then what happens is as your wealth increases, you start playing the economic game a little bit differently. You start making different choices. You spend your time doing different things, and you get into this special space where the physics, the economic physics around you start to shift. I've seen people have so much wealth that it's hard for them not to make money. Like if they say, I need an extra $20,000 by tomorrow, they can get $20,000 by tomorrow. But then I know some people where getting $20,000 feels almost impossible, and it's really because you're operating in different realities. So shifting that economic reality. Good job, Sherelle. If you have kids and grandkids and all that, it's gonna just bless so many people, and that's what leadership looks like. So your leadership in your life, in my view, might consist of you just saying, I'm going to change my life, and then I'm going to make sure anybody in my orbit understands what I'm doing and what's working so that they can also understand how they might want to make their own choices. And I just love it. So congratulations to you. I'm very proud of you. All right. So anyway, moving on. At some point, I'll send out the link again. Where you guys can share your stories, but so many stories are in there now that I got to get through those first. But once I get done, I'll send out the link again. Okay, so a couple things. One, Dr. Alicia is going to be our guest Tuesday for Stock Market Tuesday. So if you want to join, just go to drboycestockmarket.com, and she's going to do that training on the hermetic principles of wealth and financial psychology, things like that. What else? This week, the Prime class is going to meet. Prime is passive recurring income machine. It's for those that want to generate income by selling stock options. That's a great way to make money. So you can go to drboyceprime.com if you want to sign up there. And if you're not on the text list for this class, you can text the word morning to the number 87948. So just text morning to 87948. And then last but not least, on my Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance, if you go in there and you type the word money, I'll send you a list of some stocks and things like that that I'm interested in. So just go to my Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance, put the word money under any post, and it'll automatically send you stuff to your DMs. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great Sunday. And if I said anything that came out the wrong way, just chalk it up to me. Just that's just who I am. I'm not. I'm really trying to be helpful. So I know sometimes I might. Sometimes I listen. I'll be like, man, boy, she sounded like an asshole just now. Like, why would you talk like that? So just chalk it up to me. God ain't through with me yet. I'm doing my best. And so I love you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you